Welcome back to another episode of the Be Better podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Orr. I am a health and performance coach. I've coached over 500 people so far personally to help them optimize their health so they can have more energy, more time, so they can either make more money, spend it with their family, or just live a better life on their terms, not governed by lack of energy, being so stressed, being so tired, and all that jazz. I'm also the owner and creator of Primal Energies, as well as a father and a husband. And in this episode, I want to talk about something recently that I think will help a lot of my friends out there that struggle with confidence, that maybe have a bit of social anxiety, that may be feeling insecure or lack those conversation skills, especially when they go out into social situations, right? Whether it's in the business world for meetings or it's in the social world, maybe you go to a wedding or to parties or to just events like that, and you kind of either you shy away or you don't look forward to them or even just skip them altogether. I used to be that person. I used to be that guy that would avoid going out, would avoid going to social situations, and luckily for me, at the time, I was a chef, so my work roster coincided with most social events. I also couldn't drink because of epilepsy, so that also separated me from a lot of people. And so when you're working and you don't drink, naturally you're not the life of the party, and conveniently for me at the time, it gave me a lot of excuses not to socialize, not to do those things. And I used to have a lot of social anxiety. I used to be very insecure. I used to lack confidence. I used to be so awkward as well. I don't really know if I was awkward, but fuck, I felt awkward. And so if that's you or you resonate with any of those things, then I want to share something which I hope will really help you. And so what happened last week, I went to a wedding, and again, still don't drink, so that naturally separates me from a few people. But at this wedding, my wife was part of the bridal party. It was from one of her good friends who she'd known for forever, but we're not very close to them as a couple. So I know of him and I've met him a couple of times, but I'm not super close or friends with the groom or even with her. Hi. Enough for friends to say hi, how you going, and small talk, but like we never hang out or anything like that. And so with this group of people, I knew no one. I was going to a wedding where I knew absolutely no one. I was going to have to spend 90% of the day by myself because she was off doing bridal party duties, and I used to absolutely shit myself for events like this. I would try to come up with some excuse or some reason not to go, and even if I did get dragged along, I would feel so anxious and overwhelmed and awkward, like my heart would be pounding out of my chest the entire time, freaking out, thinking people are looking at me, I'm alone, I'm weird, everyone's looking at me, they're going to think I'm some loner or I'm a loser, I'm this or I'm that, and I would freak out. And there'd even been situations in the past where I had got so worked up that I couldn't even control my emotions, and I started just crying. Like in the middle of this, function with hundreds of people at this staff Christmas party, started crying and I literally had to run out because I was just so overwhelmed. My heart felt like it was about to explode out of my chest. My mind was racing, and I just did not feel comfortable. I did not feel safe. And so that's how I used to. I wouldn't say handle, but like that was my experience in these type of situations in the past. And this time around was extremely different, was very different in the sense that I was able to stand there alone for quite some time. Before the wedding started, before the ceremony, when, I hadn't really met anyone, was kind of sussing out, didn't really know, where to go stand, who to talk to or anything like that. And I was almost had that hesitation of, I don't know, is it weird to be alone? Like, should I do the usual thing when people stand alone and don't know what to do? They pull out their phone and they pretend to scroll or pretend to message or, pretend to be busy. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to stand here because I have no problem standing here alone. Whilst everybody else is in couples or groups and, connecting with their friends, I don't have a problem standing here and just observing and just looking around. And it was interesting. There was this part of me, this little part that was like trying to run away, this little hesitation of, this is weird, man. Fucking get your phone out, do something, walk away, go sit in the car for another 5 minutes. Like, go do something so this is not awkward. Like, you're trying to freak out and run away from this situation. And I fought that, stood there, and was like, no, this is cool, this is fine. And something that helped me to do that was remembering a tool a friend once told me, a friend who was a psychologist, and she said there's this thing that we know as the spotlight effect. And that spotlight effect is basically because we are the star of our own show, we think everybody notices us. We think that everybody sees us. We think that everybody's looking at us or has this judgment of us. And naturally, because of our map of the world, our preconceived notion of what people will think of us, what we think of ourselves, and how it will play out, will feed into that narrative of like what we think other people are thinking about us. And so if we're thinking, oh God, I look awkward, I'm so strange, I'm so alone, I'm a loser on all these things, then that's what's going to come up in that situation, even though we have no evidence to suggest that it's true. And so I brought that into my conscious awareness, like, you know what? Probably nobody has even really noticed me. Everybody is talking amongst themselves. They may have seen me because, naturally we look around from a safety standpoint to see, cool, no one's got a gun, nobody's trying to shoot around. All right, cool, go back to everyone's just blending into the background and go back to their conversations. Nobody cares, right? And so that was something that really helped me to just be calm and not worry so much about what other people were thinking. And so as the event kind of played on, we had the wedding was beautiful, the rain held out only just, and then my wife finished her duties, and before they had to go and take the photos, introduced me to a couple of her old friends and some of the people that she knew there, and got to talking. And it was quite interesting because in the past, and I know a lot of people would resonate with this as well, is trying to make conversation, I guess, pleasantries. I guess, you talk about shallow stuff of like, oh, what a nice wedding, and you talk about the weather, and you talk about like all these surface level things. And I don't know about you, but I feel so much more awkward in making small talk about those kind of things than I do as to going in, deeper into stuff that I'm actually interested in, and even potentially facing rejection of someone else going, oh, that's not really my thing. But I would much rather get to that point sooner than, dance around the pleasantries and the small talk pretending like we really care. And so normally that's exactly what I would have done. I would have thought that that's how you interact and you communicate with people. Oh, oh, that was really nice, cool, how's your day, you do this, you make a couple of small comments here and there, and then you kind of just go about it. Like, you don't go really deep as to understanding the person or anything else like that. And so it's not really a memorable interaction, right? Like the day as a whole, or even like any of the people that you meet. And so because of that way of communicating, because again, coming back to being a nice guy, that's how I thought people would like me. If I was nice, if I wasn't too opinionated, if I didn't have any strong beliefs around anything, if I wasn't weird or anything, then they might like me, right? And I'm hoping very much in that case that the other person does the heavy lifting and they're funny and that they do most of the talking and I can just, pretend like I'm part of the cool crew. But this time, I should say as well, and because of that, I would always neglect to mention much about my interests or about primal energies or about mushrooms that I was growing or that I was into and things like that, because people might think I'm a drug addict or a drug dealer, or they might think that I'm weird or like all these other things. And so I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to openly talk about that this time. I didn't make this conscious decision, but it just felt right to talk about this. And it was so interesting in the way it was received by people, but then also in the depth of conversation that I was able to have and connection with some of these people that I'd literally just met because of this, I wouldn't say vulnerability, but authenticity, right? This confidence to say, cool, this is what I do, this is what I'm into, and see how they respond. And not from the point of needing their validation or their acceptance, but cool, this is what I'm into. It's like you lay your cards on the table Is that something you're into? Or is that something you like, you want to talk about? And funnily enough, a couple of the people that I had spoken to, one was very much into his holistic health and a lot of the things that I do on a daily basis, both with coaching and with primal energies. And one of the other guys lives in Byron, and prior to that was living in LA, who's a very health conscious, very into his mushrooms, very into all these kind of things as well, and wanted to pick my brain about growing them because he was about to start that venture on his own. Which, if I hadn't brought that stuff up, never would have come up in conversation. And so, like you can probably tell from my voice now, when I'm talking about something that I'm actively interested in, that I'm actually passionate about and that I like, I can talk about it a hell of a lot more, so I'm much more conversational in that sense. Because naturally when you talk about things you don't really know, most people don't have much to say, like, well, I don't really know how to respond to that. I don't know what questions to ask because I don't know much about that topic, or A, I just don't fucking care, right? But then also, you can tell by the tone of my voice now that I'm a lot more animated. I'm a lot more excited about talking about this thing. And so naturally, when we talk with that type of energy, it radiates that energy, and people pick up on that. And it's a lot more attractive when you see someone talk about something that they have that passion and that energy for, right? I don't know about you, but I love having those types of conversations. Like, the more that I communicate, the more conversations I have with like-minded people, the more that I talk to people, which never used to happen. I used to shy away from conversations at all cost. If I had to talk to someone, it would be via text if I could, or not at all. And like, that was it. I just didn't really like it because I was shy and nervous and all that other stuff. Like, I was going to say something wrong or they'd laugh at me, or one of the myriad of other reasons I'd tell myself that I was going to get excluded or rejected, whatever. But being able to talk about those, have those conversations, I should say, and talk with that level of passion and excitement is almost, it's almost entrancing, it's almost hypnotic when you see someone talk like that. Because even if you don't really know much about the subject, or it's something that's quite new to you, you get drawn into it. Like, oh my god, this person is so into this. It lifts you up listening to and watching someone talk with that kind of energy about something they're so passionate about. And so, because I was able to talk and have these conversations with that level of confidence and authenticity and energy, I had a much better time, like way better time in a social situation than I can even remember, with people that I did not know coming into the day. Like, I got to the end of the night, my jaw and my cheeks were sore from smiling and communicating and talking and laughing so much. And I even made some new friends, to the point where, like, cool, we've got each other on Instagram, and when we have our next coaching event up in Byron in a few months, I'm going to catch up with them, which is going to be fucking awesome. And so, if you're that kind of person who I used to be, the type of person that it maybe holds things back in conversation because you're afraid of what people will think, because you're not maybe your authentic self, you feel like you have to mold yourself to who you're talking to get them to like you, to I guess, not reject you, or whatever else that other motivation might be, I would highly encourage you to explore what being authentic looks like for you. Like, where are the times in your day or your week that you feel most authentic? What are the topics that you love to talk about, or the things that you like to do? And something that has been reinforced to me over and over again, like so recently, I never used to have this perspective or these experiences, but recognizing that if you have thousands of people that like you for the version that they think you are, then you don't really have anyone that actually knows you. And so they only like you for the version that they think you are, which, if that's not you, then they don't really like you because they don't really know you, and it's very shallow. I'm now of the opinion that I would much rather have a much smaller circle of people that I really vibe with, and that we can have deep conversations with, and they know what I'm into, they know all those things, and I can be my authentic self around them because they know the real me. And so then those people are genuine connections. I'm sure you've had people in your life where you just connect on this whole other level. Like you almost telepathic. When you connect, you talk about things, you have these similar interests, you have like not always similar, I guess, opinions, but you can go back and forth on some of those opinions in a banterish way that is energizing, right? You don't feel like it's a drag, like, oh, you have to put on this face. Like, I know there's a lot of people that we talk to each day that you have to kind of put on that face, and it's very shallow conversation. Hey, how you going? How was your week? How's work? What are you doing here? And like, how's your training? And it's very monotonous and repetitive, and it's life sucking, right? And so finding those people and like just being brave enough to be authentic and who you truly are, I promise you will change your life for the better. Like you will, the more that I am practicing this, the more that I realize when you are authentically and unapologetically yourself, naturally, of course, you will repel people, but that's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get rejected and like not people aren't going to like me, and you go into that downward spiral. Like, yeah, for sure, because that's not everybody's cup of tea, but that's not a bad thing, because if you don't have things in common, if you guys don't vibe in that kind of way, doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make them a bad person. But why would you want to spend a whole lot of time with those kind of people anyway? If you can be yourself, naturally, cool, you'll repel some of those people, but you'll also attract people that do really vibe with you, what you're into, and that energy that you radiate as well. And those connections are going to be 10 times stronger than any of the other connections that you get just from being superficial and fake. And this is something that I've been challenging one of my clients on recently, is how to be authentic. And if you're in the same position that he is and you're like, oh, I don't really know what authentic me looks like, I don't really know what would be different. I have these instances where I don't feel authentic, like I feel this hesitation to participate in some things or to talk to some people about certain things, and I don't really know why. If that's you, I'd highly recommend, I'll put it in the comment in the caption below this, but I'd highly recommend taking a value survey. And so this is free, it's not related, this site is not related to me at all, but you can do this quick value survey. And in this value survey, it'll ask you, it'll list 50 values and you pick the top 10 that resonate with you, and then it'll ask you this or that. What would you prioritize? Health or family? Family or wealth? Wealth or health? And all these things, whatever you picked. And then it'll give you, based on those answers, the top 5. And so looking at those, here's where I should just go by feel. Like, cool, does that feel right to you? Looking at those values. And so when you know those and you're like, cool, I agree with those. Those are the values that you like, I resonate with, and I hold those quite highly. I would agree with that. Then when those circumstances arise, it makes it a lot easier to recognize why you might feel incongruent, why you might not feel so confident in that conversation, in that environment, whatever. Because maybe you're like me and health is your number one value. And so hanging around people that want to smoke and drink at the pub on their Friday or Saturday night probably doesn't really align with you. Nothing wrong with doing that if that's your thing, but it's just not my thing. And so when you know what those values are, it makes it a lot easier to know which direction to realign yourself with, to find that alignment, to find that authenticity, and it will come a lot more naturally to you when you can recognize those. And so I hope this has been helpful. I hope if you're in a space where you feel a lot of anxiety, you feel a lot of overwhelm, you kind of get caught up or caught in your head about what will other people think of me, what will they say, what if I get rejected, what if this, what if that. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that you've got a couple of tools to be able to take away a new reframe in that mindset to be able to be more confident, to be your authentic self, and recognize that when you're in that situation, like even though you might have some more tools now, that anxiety, that overwhelm, that wanting to run away will not just disappear, not just instantly be gone. There might still be that bit of a, oh, I don't know about this. I'm like, I want to retreat. I want to go back to somewhere where it's safe. But that's because that's what you've always done. That's because at the sign of that situation, the sign of that feeling, you've got out of there. You've left the party, you've walked away, you've gone back to where it's safe, you've gone to the toilet, you've gone to go vape, smoke, get a drink, go to the bar, go sit in the car with your phone, gone to do whatever. And, to your subconscious mind, you've escaped the danger, so to speak. So that feeling will be there. But with exposure, we will override that feeling that's trying to tell you to get out, but sitting in that, knowing that, cool, that's okay. I can sit here for a bit longer. I know nothing bad is going to happen. I know that I'm not in danger. I know that I don't need to worry about these things. I am okay. And then through that exposure, through that control, through that recognition, through some of those reframes, you can start to change those behaviors and then get that confidence to take that next step. Go start a conversation. Introduce yourself to a stranger. Be authentic in your communication, in your conversation, in who you meet. And you never know who you will meet. You never know who you will have a conversation with. It might just be your new best friend. It might just be the next business deal that you've been looking for. It might be someone that is or has a connection to something that you've been looking for. Whether it's in the home space, maybe it's a real estate person or someone that's selling something or that's looking for something that you're trying to sell or get rid of, or in the business space, like I said, they're in a certain industry that could really help you. So I hope that's helpful. I want, like everything, take action from something that you've learned in this, some takeaway. If something has stood out to you, I implore you to please go and action that. If something around being authentic or being more confident has stood out to you, I implore you to go and take action on that today. Go and talk to someone that you wouldn't normally, whether it's at the cafe or it's just at the checkout at the petrol station or at the grocery store. Say something a little bit more than, hey, how's it going? Ask an extra question or two just to start breaking that ice, and then find ways that you can be more authentic, whether it's the stuff that you post on social media, the way that you show up, knowing those values. And if that's not enough, if you want to take even more action, then please like this podcast, give it a rating, or share it to someone that you know would like to be more confident or that would benefit from hearing this, to know that either they're not alone or that they can be more confident and authentic from where they are right now. Because I know when I was in that space, I would have loved to have heard people's stories like this and how they got over it, because I felt like I was the only one and I freaking hated that feeling. And so I'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for listening. Like always, don't be sorry, be better, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.